Okay, so um, I want to talk about a lot of stuff, and these are things that excite me, um, and they are very different subjects, but they all have something in common. Um, a lot of people learn about them in school, in different subjects, different classes, and um, I sort of I sort of wanted to link everything together so that you might be excited about these things. So I don't want to go really too deep into these subjects because anyone who takes a class at school will go deep into these subjects. But what I wanted to do is link everything together because I think it's a really interesting way to get inspired with how everything you can learn about a specific subject, how you can use that to discover new things that are linked to it, and maybe the associations or relations aren't obvious. And I think the main goal of what I want to talk about is how awesome it is to discover things. And I think a lot of times at school, we learn how things work, which means we don't discover things. We, we cover subjects and we learn how these things work, how other people made these discoveries. So there's not a whole lot of creativity in that. You don't discover things or make links yourself, which I think is the awesome part about learning. And we do this when we're young. When we're young, we go into this world and everything's new, and you're not really going to learn how to walk by studying. You're gonna try things, you're gonna explore, you're gonna discover what doing this does, and if I see something there and I do this, what happens? And you make something fall off, or if you see something there that if you're hungry and you see something there, you realize that you can use this to grab it and bring it to you. And so nobody told you that this is what you ought to do, but you're always trying to try stuff and see what it does, and there are things that are going to be good for you and things that are going to be bad for you, and you learn through experimentation. So I think it's awesome to be young and discover, and then when we get older, then we're being shown what others have discovered, and there's more and more of that and less of discovering. And I think this is a really practical approach for the reason that we think that it's no use for society. It's not pragmatic. It's not useful for someone to discover something if it's already been discovered. It makes sense for us as a society to say, look, we're going to show you what everyone discovered before you, and then you can use that to get inspired and then discover things of your own. But as we go along, as we become more and more educated, it starts to take a very long time before you start reaching a point where you have enough tools, you've learned enough of what other people have discovered so that you can start making discoveries of your own. And oftentimes it happens at the graduate level. You have to do a master or a PhD in whatever you're studying. By that time, I mean, you've had so many years where you've learned what others have discovered that you might have already lost the touch or the feeling for discovering things. So I understand how it can be pragmatic to not want people to discover things that have already been discovered. But in essence, I think in the end, it might be okay to have people just rediscover the same thing, and maybe you don't evolve as much this way, but at least people are excited about life. They're excited about making links by themselves and thinking for themselves and creating things, and in the end it might not really matter if people are doing the same things, because why do we really need to always keep evolving? And if we get to a point where people are not interested to be in school anymore just because it takes so long to learn what others have discovered before you start doing your own, that people just that people just don't reach that point anyway, then there might be an issue there. So yeah, so I think what I want to talk about is just how basic stuff, to sort of provide really basic tools for people to discover how the world works, and make their own discoveries, and get excited about doing that, and enter in a sort of habit of thinking for ourselves, on basic stuff, which I think will extend to all aspects of life in general. So yeah, okay, so here we go. So I'd like you to imagine that you have someone looking at you, and then that person throws an object at you, and then that person picks up the object, throws it at you again. And I want you to imagine that for some reason there would be a light over here that lights up 2 seconds before I throw an object at you. And even if I didn't tell you exactly what's going on, if I throw it off like repeatedly, at some point you're going to make an association with the fact that when the light goes on, then it's going to be followed by me throwing the object at you. So you might be, what it might do for you is that you might be very relaxed. You're not on edge anymore about when I'm going to throw the object at you so that you catch it, because you're going to make an association. You're going to be able to better predict when I'm going to throw it, because you're going to see that before I do, there's a light that goes on. So you might become relaxed, and then you see the light and you automatically think, oh, then the throw is going to happen now. This is what your brain does, okay? This is the most basic thing that I think living things do. They make logical association. So the logic is really important. It's the basis of everything, in my opinion. The logic between the dynamics I described was, if the light goes on, then an object will come to me. So it's an if-then, it's an association. So what happens is, in your brain, the light is a sign that something will be thrown to you afterward. And this is the most basic stuff. And if you think about really what I think is the basis of life, is whatever does the most basic if then you sort of have life. So this is really the basis of what I want to talk about. Your whole being, your whole person is based on making association, and that's the form that we're in now is one where we make billions and billions of associations all the time, and I want to put an emphasis on signs. So I want you to think about the fact that the light is a sign for what is about to happen. It makes you think of something else. This is called something called semiotics. I don't want to get into semiotics, but I want to talk about signs and the logic and keep it really simple. So So throughout throughout your days, whenever you see something, um, what you think of that is everything it makes you think of. Um, so if you see, for example, a horse, how you're going to feel about that horse is defined by how you feel about everything it makes you think of. Every situation where there was a horse, you were scanning the surrounding. You were trying to make associations. Um, if if you one day fell and you tripped on your knee and you hurt yourself and there was a horse there, your brain somehow tried to make an association. Did I fall because there was a horse? Maybe. Um, and if you trip 10 times in a row throughout the course of 10 years, and every single time there was a horse by accident, then your brain will try to see if there was an association. Like every time I tripped, there was a horse. There might be no causation or correlation there, but your brain will look for it. It's looking for meaning, it's looking for signs, it's looking to create association. So logic is at the basis of how we work. And those associations that we create, there are some that are really useful, and your brain is an incredible machine, and sometimes you're going to make associations that are really useful that you aren't even conscious of, and that's okay because there's just too much things happening for you to be conscious of all of them. And one thing to know is that sometimes your brain will make associations by chance just because something happened a couple times and you're going to think that there's a link there, but there are none. And that's where being aware of yourself, of knowing knowing ourselves, becomes really important, because my cat is... because being aware of the associations and the link that you make will allow you to be rational about whether this is a legitimate association, and whether how you're going to act based on the fact that there's a link there will help you see if what you're doing by habit, because there was a link created there, is sometimes that is worth continuing, or if you should break that. I think that some phobias were created by chance. Sometimes it's kind of built in our DNA, it feels like, but sometimes there could be a reinforcing effect. And you can realize that, hey, like my body, I'm scared whenever this happens because there was a history of that event being associated with something unpleasant. But you can recognize it and realize that, no, this association is not legitimate. It's not helping me. And you can, when you realize those associations, you can sort of break them. But the really, really cool part is that when you start becoming aware of those types of association and the kind of really awesome logical link between things, you realize that you can go a little bit further and look for how the world is related on purpose. And I think this is the beginning of when you start thinking scientifically. And one thing that I'm hoping is that people would become fascinated by the kind of association that they can do purposefully.